Thank you for connecting to this training video for Report Runner. My name's Anne from Orchid Systems, and in this training video I'm going to run through the installation, configuration and use of Report Runner. But first of all, is this the product for you? Do you or your staff regularly spend time setting up, running and distributing recurring Crystal or Sage 300 financial reports? Is time being wasted, or are poor decisions being made by staff who struggle to access the reports they need when they need them? Would you like to improve both efficiency and data security by ensuring staff can easily launch and access reports that are relevant to their role without being distracted or having unauthorized access to those that aren't? Report Runner allows you to automatically run and distribute suites of Crystal and financial reports. This saves time and streamlines the production of reports. You can reduce the complexity when running reports by creating specific menus and management of the parameters required. These can be done in the background with customizable menus. And you can tailor the views for different users, enhancing their productivity and the security around the reports, so the users only see what they need to see. And you can improve decision-making through providing users with easier access to key reports. The topics in our training: first, we're going to activate the module, have a look at the licensing, and look at the configuration options. Then we're going to set up Report Runner for Crystal reports. We're going to create menus for the Crystal reports, add reports to the menus, and see the configuration that you can do around Sage 300 Crystal reports and your own Crystal reports. And then we're going to look at the same task, but with respect to financial reports, how you can create menus of financial reports and attach them to the menu and run them. Report Runner is activated through administrative services through the Activate option. But Report Runner is one of the 5 submodules within Information Manager. So the product you download from our website and install is Information Manager. And then based on your license code and activation code, you will see more or less and be able to use more or less of the 5 submodules. After activating, we'll go to the Information Manager license and check the license that you have so that it is showing Report Runner. And then we'll go into the security and options for Report Runner and see what parameters you need to enter prior to setting up your Crystal and financial reports. To download our products, go to orchid.systems, log in, and then click on Product Downloads or click on Resources and Product Downloads. Select the version you want and then scroll down to find the module that you want. For Report Runner, it is one of the submodules of Information Manager, so this is the product that you would download and install. When you install Information Manager for the first time on a system, it will prompt you for the serial number and activation code. You can fill in your serial number here, and if you have an activation code, you can click here and fill in the activation code. If you don't have an activation code, you would install within 30 days, and on the license screen you would enter the activation code when you receive it from us. But I'm going to select that I have an activation code and I'm going to copy and paste it into the install shield. If you don't have a serial number, you can always use one of the NFR serial numbers that are on our website. After installing Information Manager, you would log into the required companies and go and activate the module in those required companies. And after activating, we can go and check the license. You can see that this installation has been licensed for Report Runner. If we had additional modules within Information Manager like Document Management Link or optional tables or data views, they too would show here, and notes. We would recommend that you use the Report Runner visual process flow to guide you through your setup. So in order to use it, you need to assign the visual process flow to the required users. The Report Runner visual process flow shows you the steps you need to consider before coming to running Crystal reports and running financial reports. Initially in the security for Information Manager, these security groups are applicable for Report Runner. Whether or not you can define the email messages to be sent with reports, with the attached reports to recipients. Report Runner and Report Runner Designer refers to the Crystal Reports menu, so whether or not you can run the Crystal Reports menu and whether or not you can run the Crystal Report Designer. Similarly, for the Financial Report Runner, whether you can run it. All users can design or run the Financial Report Runner Designer. And then we have 26 security groups, A to Z, which can be assigned to Crystal reports. And a user who has the Report Runner security clearance will be able to open up the Crystal Reports menu, and then they will only see those reports that are in the intersection of their security groups and the security group that has been assigned to the Crystal report. In the IM options, on the Report Runner tab, here you need to specify your customization directory, and that must coincide with your customization directory that you have specified for the group of users and or for the company. So taking this option from Admin Services, I'm going to add all users and a company ID and specify our specific directory for the reports for SAM Inc. I could share the reports with all companies, but in my case, I want to have specific reports for SAM Inc. Having defined this in my admin services, I need to put that same path into my reports field in Report Runner. Having set these directories during my current session in Sage 300 SAM Inc., I would need to reconnect to this company in order for System Manager to see those new directories. If you are going to email people attached reports from Report Runner, then you need to fill in your email server details in the screen. These are your SMTP server details, and the fields here may or may not be mandatory depending on how the security has been set up for your SMTP server and what SMTP server you're using. If you're using a non-standard port, you can put colon and the port number after the server name, and we'd recommend you send a test email. And with all our modules, we have an Updates tab where you can check to see if you're on the latest product update. And if you are emailing reports to people, you'll want to set up email message templates for the attached reports. In the F1 help, you can find information on the message template IDs and the variables that you can use in the message templates. So any field from the company variables. This email message will be, the subject will be latest age trial balance. Please find attached the up-to-date age trial balance, and it will include the company contact and the company name. We have now seen how to activate the module, how to check the license, and the configuration that we need to do using the Report Runner visual process flow, the security, the options, Report Runner email and updates tab, and the email messages that we may need. We're now going to go and configure Crystal and financial reports. First, we'll configure Crystal reports. We'll add reports to the Report Runner menu. We'll see how to run the reports. We'll check how the reports configuration file for the Sage 300 report object is built and maintained. And we'll see how to schedule those reports if we're using Process Scheduler. And then we'll do the same for financial reports. We'll add to the report menu. We'll see how to run the reports, and we'll see how to schedule the FR reports if using Process Scheduler. When you come to configure or run Crystal reports set up in Report Runner, you can use this option here to run the Report Runner Crystal reports menu. Or you could use the Analytical Reports Report Runner option. It is the same screen. When you connect to the IM Report Runner menu as an administrator or somebody who's allowed to configure reports, you can right-hand mouse button and add a section or add a report. A section is like a report header. For a report, you're browsing to find a crystal report to attach to your menu. First, I'm going to add a section for my accounts receivable reports. And then within a section, when I right-hand mouse button and add a report, I browse to find the appropriate crystal report. Here you can browse to find a Sage 300 crystal report. So from your AR directory, you could select any of the AR crystal reports, or it could be your own custom crystal report. First, I'm going to work with a simple customer report, the AR customer group. When you add it to the desktop, the crystal report writer is opened and the parameters from the report are extracted into the wizard here for you to be able to set and define the values for the parameters. We can change the heading and then go ahead and set our parameters. As you can see, some of the parameters were given a value in the report, and those initial values have been brought into the report runner menu parameter setup. By default, all the parameters are hidden. This means that when the user comes to run the report, they will not be prompted any parameters. The report will just be run using these initial value parameters. So to have a look at that, we have our new group accounts receivable reports, and then within that we have the AR customer groups report. And if we come to print that, there are no parameters, and we could go ahead and print. So as you can see, it's the standard Sage 300 AR customer groups report. But if we want to come back and add parameters or amend those parameters, or allow the user to define the parameters when you're running the report, we could go ahead and edit. And perhaps we want to make the from group and the to group a finder, so they can choose from which group to which group. But the other parameters, we're happy with the parameters the way they're set. So we could go ahead and edit the parameter. We could change the caption, change its input type. So at the moment it's hidden and it's passing in the initial value, but we could make it any one of these standard screen controls that you typically see on a Sage 300 report UI. So I'm going to make it a text box finder. And for a text box finder, you need to specify which view or table the finder is going to come from. So these are AR groups, so we find the AR groups in this list. So expanding AR and looking down for the AR groups, it's AR25. So that is the view that's going to be displayed in the finder. And now we're going to choose from that view which fields do we want to display in the finder. So we're perhaps going to put in the group code, the description, the status, the inactive date, date last maintained, the account set, and the profile, billing cycle, interest profile, and maybe account type and terms. So if those are the fields that we want to have in the finder, we can test. So the finder is going to look like this. It's having these fields in. We could add or remove or change the order. But if that's the way we want to go, from the view, which field must be passed into the report? And that would be the AR customer group. And we want to do it both on the from and the to. It makes sense to have the same fields in the same order for your from and to finder. And the return code would be the same field. So when we run the report now, we get a from and to finder, which we can select. And coming to print the report now, we would see it's selecting customer groups from BF to EMP. When we added this report to our desktop, what Report Runner was doing in the background, in the customization directory that you had configured, it's copying the report. So in my Orchid custom reports SAM folder, we see it's created the EB65A directory because I'm running 2018. And in there, it's created a report.ini, and in the ENG directory, it's put a copy of the AR customer group report. So if you wanted to make changes to this report after it's been added to the report runner desktop, you need to make changes physically to the report in this directory, not in its source directory. And if you add or amend the parameters in any way, you need to come back to your report runner desktop and open up the report and refresh the parameters so that the parameters that are stored away for this report are in sync with the physical actual report. If these parameters do not match, then you would get some additional parameters being prompted from Crystal itself. As long as the parameters match, and when the report is run through Sage 300's report object, if all the parameters in the Crystal report are set by the report object, then you will not be prompted for any additional Crystal parameters. When adding Crystal reports to your report runner menu, you can add any Crystal report, a Sage 300 Crystal report, or your own custom Crystal report. But with respect to Sage 300 Crystal reports, you cannot add a report which is running from temporary tables because it is the Sage 300 screen that populates the temporary tables and then the report runs off that. And examples of those are the AR statements and the AR age trial balance and the AP age trial balance. As the AP and AR age trial balance are very useful reports, we have created two reports which you can find in our knowledge base which do not require temporary tables. So just adding these two to our desktop so we can work with these reports. First the AR age trial balance, and then adding a new group for the accounts payable reports, and then adding the AP age trial balance. And then renaming the APH trial balance with a decent file name, report name. When we come to run this report, we see we have no parameters, but in printing this report or previewing this report, we see we get an error message. And this can happen quite often when your parameters are not being passed in correctly. So this particular formula or this particular parameter is expecting a number, and it is trying to do a numeric conversion on that number, and there's nothing being passed into aging period 4. You often get these errors when you're using the Sage 300 Crystal reports because there's many parameters that the screens fill in. What we recommend you do is put all the parameters into the face of the report and then run it through the Sage 300 screen, selecting the options that you want so you see how the parameters are being set. And then you can come into the report runner parameters area and fill in those parameters accordingly. But for my aging periods, I do need a value in those aging periods. So going back to edit the parameters for my AR aging report, I would need to set an aging period for 1, 2, 3, and 4. For example, 30, 60, 90. And rerunning the report, we see that it now works. Now we have filled in those parameters. And if we want to be able to run this report, selecting the start and end customer number, we can do the same as we did with customer groups, but this time choosing AR24, which is the customer view, and run the finder on the customer view. And in testing the report again, we now have a from and to customer number to run the report, and we see that those two parameters are passed in. We have seen for all the parameters, you can either set them as input for the users to input when they run, or we can pre-answer them and make them hidden. The orientation, portrait or landscape, is passed into the report when running and sets the report parameter accordingly. This is where you can assign your security groups to this particular report. So if I was to say that the AR aging belongs to the security group A and security group B, then only those users running the report menu with security group A and B will see this report. And for your parameter layout, if you have many parameters, you could have 1 per line or 2 per line. And if I did do changes to this report, I would do the changes in the SAMINC EBXXA directory, and then I would need to come back and click refresh if any of those parameters have changed, like I have deleted a parameter or added a new parameter. When a user who does not have admin rights to the report runner menu runs the report runner menu, they will see all the reports that they have the ability to run. So the security groups coincide with their security groups that have been set up in admin services. And when they come to run the report, they can fill in the parameters that they want, go ahead and run the report, or they could fill in the parameters and save these parameters for the next time that they want to run. So if I want to run from customer 1200, from customer 1100 to customer 1400, I could go ahead and print that, but I can also save this, save as a report name. So I could call this one my AR aging report 1100 to 1400 and save that away in a particular group. So I could save it back in the original group or in my particular reports. And now I have my own report that I can come ahead and print, and it's already remembered the customer range that I've selected, and I could go ahead and print that. Or I can go ahead and schedule or email this report by clicking on the schedule button, selecting to schedule the report, filling in an output destination for the PDF. When filling in the file name, if you use the same file name, it will overwrite it each time, or you could include the date and time to keep a copy of the reports. And you can select to email. Select your message template ID and fill in your email address. Clicking OK will save these parameters, and clicking Run will send an email right now. And here is the email that I've just received with my message template, and double-clicking on the associated document would show you the PDF that had been attached. In addition to running a report right now and previewing and printing or emailing right now, you can also set your parameters up and schedule a report. So you fill in the parameters the way you want the report to be scheduled, and then fill in the schedule screen and say how often you want the report to run, daily, weekly, monthly, what day you want it to start, what time you want it to run, and then you also fill in your destination and the email message ID to go with that report. And then you save the report in one of your groups. So having set the report to be scheduled once a week, it's really Process Scheduler that comes and finds all scheduled reports waiting to run and schedules them. And in Process Scheduler, you would have a schedule to run your crystal reports. So this schedule line is saying in the company SAM Inc., run your Information Manager report. So it will look for all crystal reports run by all users in this company or scheduled by all users in this company and run those reports and set up the schedule for its next. If it was daily, it will set run again the next day, or weekly set to run the next week. When setting up a crystal report, which is a data pipe report to run in Report Runner, you might get this error message saying that the data pipe DLL is not found. In this case, you need to copy this DLL, OEACTN, from the OE directory into your configured report directory. And you need to copy the two data pipe rows from the original report.ini into your new configured report.ini. To find your report in the new report.ini, we suggest that you search for one of the parameter names. For example, I'll search from ship date to find the report in the new report.ini, and replace the data pipe path equals and data pipe query with the original contents from the OE report.ini. And going back to my order action report, either via the report runner visual process flow or by running Information Manager analytical reports and report runner. First, I need to just edit some of the parameters to make sure that the default parameters produce a result in the reports. So I've changed the item status to incomplete, and I've changed the default from and to ship date. And now we're able to print a data pipe report through Report Runner. And in a similar way to the crystal reports, you can set up menus of financial reports. Right-hand mouse button to add a group, and then within a group, right-hand mouse button to add a report. And now you're browsing to find your .xls or .xlx, which is your financial report. So this is my departmental income statement, which I'm going to run for Department 100. Fill in the parameters that you want, the way you want to run this report, and then you can go ahead and run the report. Fill in the fiscal year and period that you want to run for, and the path where you want to store the result of this report. And if you do want to send an email, you can fill in a message ID, fill in an email address, and this report will be saved in this directory and then emailed to this person. The normal FR report writer is being called from within Excel. And opening that report, we see the report as if you had run it through the GL print financial statements. The only difference in the way Report Runner runs the report is if there are multiple sheets with multiple FR specs on the multiple sheets, Report Runner will run one after the other. Adding a few more sections and a few more reports, you can see how Report Runner is giving you a menu for your financial reports, as you do not need to know where these are stored when you come to run the reports. And you can run multiple reports at the same time. So I might run the departmental income statement and balance sheet from both Department 100 and 200. And when we come to select and print, we fill in your fiscal year and period, and these 4 reports will be run in the order that you specify here. You could change the order, specify a path for them to be saved in, and now I'm going to use the variable file name. So it's going to overwrite, use the same file name as the original source file name and overwrite, or I could include date and time if I want a different copy each time I run, and go ahead and print. You can see it's now moved on to the second report, the third report, and finally the fourth report. So although this wasn't strictly speaking scheduled, I did not have to fill in the parameters or the fiscal year and period for that report for each individual one. It was running them one after the other. But if you do want to schedule these reports, you can use Process Scheduler and create a schedule which allows you to schedule a report group. So you specify the step number, the company that you're running in, and the action would be a Process Scheduler Level 3 action to run a financial report group. And this time you need to specify the report group name, for example, Department 100 or Department 200. So it's checking to see the report groups that you have created in this particular company. and we perhaps want to run Department 200, would fill in the fiscal year and period that we want to run, the email template, the email subject, where you want to store the reports, and then this can be scheduled by Process Scheduler. So in this instance, we're going to run all the reports in Department 200 with the fiscal year and the current fiscal year and current fiscal period as the parameters, store it in the Excel format in this directory, including the fiscal year and fiscal period in the file name. But it's Process Scheduler and the Windows Scheduler that would fire this task off on the 1st of every month or the 3rd working day of every month, dependent on your schedule. And here's the directory of the reports that were run previously. For further information on setting up and using Process Scheduler, please see our website for the training example on Process Scheduler. We have now seen how to set up Crystal report menus in Report Runner, how to add a report, how to check the report configuration, and how to schedule that report using Process Scheduler Level 1. We've also seen how to add reports to a menu for financial reports, how to run the report, and how to schedule the report using Process Scheduler Level 3. For more information on Report Runner, please go to orchid.systems and select Report Runner from the Sage add-on by product name. There you will find brochures, product positioning video, training video, and sales demo videos. Or contact us. Thank you for watching this video.
Finally, a summary of the questions that have come in the webinars we have run recently. Do you need both Report Runner and Process Scheduler? No, Report Runner can be used by itself to organize your reports, set some parameters, configure it to run and be scheduled at certain times. However, to trigger the action, a user needs to log on the company, find the report, and click Run. Process Scheduler would be required if you want to run or refresh the reports unattended after hours, and if you want to run the reports on multiple databases without having to log on to each one. In addition, Process Scheduler has some other features that might be relevant, so look at the demonstration or training video for Process Scheduler for details on that. Can I use Report Runner to send customer documents, to email customer documents? Not really, as Report Runner is designed to send emails to hard-coded email addresses, not relative to the customer's delivery address. Can I use Report Runner for reports using Sage 300 views or connection to non-Sage 300 data? Yes, but because Report Runner uses the Sage 300 report object, we need to have at least one Sage 300 table in the report. So we would suggest that you use, for example, CS.com as your main table and use the ODT ORG field in the Crystal report to link to the custom view. Or if you're reporting on Sage 300 customer details, you could use ARCUS to link to your Sage 300 table or view. Can I specify the initial value of a parameter to be the current date? Yes, if the input type is set to date picker, you type YYYMMDD as the initial value as per the screenshot, and I'm going to show that to you briefly now. So if I log into Sage 300, go to Report Runner, let's look at this report. If I look at this parameter called cutoff date, I see it's been set up as an input type of date picker. I've got all these other options as well. And now I can type this in my initial value. When I run this report, or print it for that matter, you can see the default cutoff date is set to 10th of August, which is today. For more tips on Report Runner, you can go to the knowledge base on the Orchid website. So go to the resources area, knowledge base, which takes you to this, and look for Report Runner, and you can search. So we regularly publish new articles there, so it's a good point of call for any questions you may have. Thank you.